Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the ColourPop Twilight Eclipse palette. Now, I actually don't know all that much about Twilight. I have not read the books, I have not watched the movies, but I have really loved the color stories of all three of the palettes for Twilight that ColourPop has put out. So I am excited to see this latest one. I'm also going to show you this highlighter Change Me that came with the collection because I really loved this. It looks like a big giant moon. It's super pretty. Okay, so this palette from ColourPop is super heavy on the dark colors and reds. And I really love this. Pretty good for a vampire movie, right? I thought it was pretty cool because it came with sort of two sides. You've got this side, which has sort of vampiric names, which is like cool tones and cool colors. And then you've got this side over here, which I think has some like wolfy kind of names. I don't really know the movies very well, but I think so. And this one has like a lot warmer colors. And then over here in the middle, we have a few colors that could fit on really either side, but are kind of fun to use. So what I did to kind of try this palette out is I did one look with colors from the cool side and a couple from the middle, and one look, the one that I'm wearing today, with colors from the warm side and kind of borrowed a couple from the middle. So the first one I'm going to show you is a look I did a couple of days ago, and this one was from the cool side. I used this one, the Tent, as kind of like a really light blendy shade, and I put that one on the first third of my eyelid, kind of blended it into the inner corner, and kind of brought it up to my eyebrows as like a transition to my skin tone shade also. Then I used Hunting Instinct sort of on the middle third of the eyelid. I'm just sort of blending into there to get some of the like dark colors going. And then I used this color Frostbite, this really dark kind of bluish, just on the very, very outer corner of my eyes. And I did just a little bit of lining with it also. I also used Hunting Instinct under my lids on the under eye side because I thought that that brought like a kind of dark grunginess to the look. I wanted this one to be really grungy goth, very cool looking, and not really like standard glam look good makeup. So then to kind of like put some shimmer on the shade, I went in with Mind Tricks, which is a really cool shimmer. I love this one a lot. And then I used Major Jasper just in the inner corner and just like a little bit to lighten it up. And then I put a bunch under the eye because I wanted to, since it was such a dark grungy look, I wanted to elevate that just a little bit, just so it's not like raccoon eyes. You know what I mean? And there's a time and a place for raccoon eyes, and I will never say no to raccoon eyes. But I really felt like the silver kind of lifted that look up a little bit, just so it didn't look like straight dark grunge. It had something different to it, because I like to do something different. Then for the look that I did today was sort of the warmer side of this palette. So I went in on the inner corner with this shade, I'm Switzerland, okay? Which is sort of it's a little bit darker of a transition shade. It's definitely not as light as the Tent. So it did start the look off pretty dark. So I went with that theme. And I kind of pulled that across the crease as well, just to kind of have something there. It was fun. Then I didn't put anything at first in the middle of the lid. I usually do my mattes and then my shimmers on top. So I didn't put any mattes in the middle of the lid. But in my outer corners, I put New Vampires and sort of blended that out quite a bit. Not to the point where it was smoky. I had my son's basketball game today, so I was trying not to look like too over the top or outrageous. So I stuck with really good blending, mostly on the eyelid itself for that one. Then, because I did want a lot of shimmer in this look, I took Hotter Than You and I tried to put it over most of my eyelid. Now, Hotter Than You was a really interesting shimmer to me. It felt like I made a video last week about ColourPop's new palette, Hard to Get, and that one had some really dry, not very workable shimmers in it. And Hotter Than You really kind of felt similar to that one. It was difficult to pick up a lot of color. Now, it ended up working really well in the look that I did. Because I was putting it on and I was like, wow, this is not gonna like build up and make the kind of shimmery shimmer that I want. But I ended up sort of packing it on in the middle and then sort of blending it out towards both sides. And it kind of gave it this cool like smoky shimmer character. So it ended up playing as more like a barely there topper than as like a real shimmery shade. Which I thought worked for the look, but it was not what I was expecting, and not really the kind of shimmers that I love to use personally. So I wanted to do something else since Hotter Than You wasn't being a very shimmery shimmer, and I wanted something eye-catching in this look. So I went in with this shade Magic Blood, and I just put that on like the real probably like the first fourth of my eyelid. Like I wanted to keep it real small, real discreet, but I wanted to have that pop of like shimmery color. So there is like just a little bit of red in that little inner bit of the eye. And then I felt like it needed just a little something more since I had blended out that dark color New Vampire so much. So I went in with my angled brush and I used it to line my eyes as well. So I lined under the last third of both my eyes on the outside and on the upper lid as well. I did some lining with that. And then for both of the looks that I did, I used this highlighter palette. Now, personally, don't get me wrong, because I love this highlighter. This is an awesome highlighter. It's like silver with a bit of a purple shimmer. It's really pretty. I don't think that it really fits with the color scheme of this palette much at all. Unless you were really just like trying to go for a look that was blue and this purple right here and maybe another really, maybe the silver, maybe then it could work with that. But I feel like this palette in particular is giving like grungy tones, and this is giving like pastel purple, which they don't seem to work very well together, but it is a really pretty highlighter. Okay, now before I give you my opinion on this palette, I want to swatch the shimmer shades that I have not yet used. I'm just going to swatch them all and kind of talk to you about them and my opinions on them, because so far it was not as bad as the Hard to Get palette, where I felt like most of the shimmers were not very good. This one, Hotter Than You, really wasn't spectacular, but I haven't tried some of them yet, so let's swatch them and see what they're like. I'm going to start here with this shade Proposal. I haven't tried this yet, but it looks like sort of a sheer topper with maybe a blue to purple shift. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, pretty sheer, but it has that really pretty duochrome blue to purple going on. Okay, now we're gonna try Tense Alliance. I haven't tried this yet either. This is almost like a really deep champagne. You can see that. Ooh, pretty. See, these are the shimmers I like from ColourPop. This is a good formula. It gives you a ton of payoff of color with not really a whole lot of pickup. And it's like almost foily. That one's so pretty to me. Okay, next I'm going to try this shade No Control. This one has like bigger flakes. Wow, it's really flaky. But I think it's going to have a similar payoff. Wow. That's super pretty. I'm going to have to like really distribute those flakes and maybe even pick up a little bit more. Because it wants to pack those flakes on in just like one spot. That is a lot of color. It's very pigmented for a shimmer. and it has a nice shine to it. I don't personally like the formulas as much with the really big flakies. I feel like they're just difficult for me to work with. But if they're up your alley, they're there. Okay, now I'm going to go in with Major Jasper. I remember this one being pretty pigmented and a lot like this one in formula. Yeah, it's got a very foily sort of lots of pigment kind of a formula. Very pretty, very silver, traditional silver kind of a color. I like it next to the pewter one that we just did. Okay, we're gonna move on and swatch this one, Mind Tricks. This one is super soft and also has super big flakes. So I'm just gonna kind of pat it onto my finger instead of rubbing because I feel like it wastes less of the product. Yeah, you still get a ton of color that way. And it's easier to deal with the big flakies, I feel like, with the patting motion. This one rubs down to like a really nice flat texture. So even though it has big flakies like this one, it's much more able to like go down to a nice texture on the eye, at least what I would call a nice texture. And maybe there are some people who really like those big flakes, but I struggle with them. Okay, here's Magic Blood. This one has a great texture. It's another one of those super light, super small flakes. Gives you a ton of color payoff. Look at that. It's just bright, bright, bright. It's not quite as shiny as some of the other foily ones, but it is pretty. I found this one really easy to work with a brush too. Sometimes when I'm doing that like little bit right next to the inner corner, I want something I can work well with a brush because my pinky is just too big to get in there and like put it where I want to put it. So I love that. Okay, now we're going in with Hotter Than You. This is the one that I struggled with. So we'll see how it turns out in a swatch rather than using it. Yeah. You can see like it has a nice color at first, but it like the product just packs on in that first little touch. So I think you could build this up if you were wanting to like use a lot of product. It's just is not naturally like a very opaque kind of a shade. Okay, and very last we're going to go in with this shade, First Outsider. This one also has some flakies. I think these are going to be pretty sizable flakies also. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna try it again to like really get some color there because this again is one of those dry shades that's just like not transferring very well. So I'm not a fan of this new formula. It's kind of difficult to pick up and spread. Okay, but in the end, that's not a bad color. It's sort of like a mauve-y. Like it's brown, but it has a teensy bit of purple in there. Again, not my favorite formula for a shimmer, but it's not terrible. Oh, before I put all this away, I do want to swatch this highlighter also. To me, this highlighter has a really nice texture. It says it's a super shock highlighter. So it's a lot like the old little super shock containers you used to get that were twisty. And there it is. You can see like it has really a white cast to it. And just a little bit of like a purple, kind of a cool tone, which I feel like while it did not work very well with the colors in the palette, in my opinion, I also do feel like it's a really pretty highlighter. Okay, so overall, I will say I love the colors in this palette. I feel like this is a super fun way to explore grungy looks because you do have the cool side and the warmer side. So no matter what works for your skin tone, you're going to find something. And if you want to experiment with things that are outside of your usual skin tone recommendations, this is also a great palette to work with. I personally feel like I have kind of a neutral skin tone, so both work okay for me. But maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't even know. But I do like to experiment with both for sure. So if you're the kind of person who also likes to experiment, this is a great palette to get. I will say it does have a lack of light blending colors. So if you're looking to do more traditional looks, this is not going to be the palette for you. This is going to be a lot of grunge. Which is fun if you like doing grungy looks. But if you're looking for something to do more traditional glammy looks with, and you have a lighter skin tone like mine, that's probably not going to work for you. I won't speak to you if you have a darker skin tone because I don't have any experience with that, but it's a possibility that this might work for you to do some experimenting with since there aren't a ton of light shades. But let's talk about the formula. The mattes are fine. They're nothing standout or amazing. Some of the mattes in the Hard to Get palette were really, really good. I didn't feel like any of these were particularly standout fantastic to me. It was pretty typical ColourPop matte formula, which is pretty good. It's not bad. It's certainly no like Blend Bunny, but it's pretty good. And some of the shimmers were really good. Tense Alliance was fantastic. Major Jasper was pretty good. I really loved Mind Tricks. Even though it was flaky and kind of had big particles, you were able to rub it down. But some of them I was just not a fan of. Particularly Hotter Than You and First Outsider have that same dry shimmer formula that I was encountering in the Hard to Get palette, and I was really not a fan of, which is a bummer. So I don't know, if anyone from ColourPop is watching this, please go back to the other formula. And if you do happen to like this formula, I apologize to you, and I hope that you are able to enjoy it in these ColourPop palettes that have it now, because it seems like it's becoming more common. So those are my thoughts on the new ColourPop Twilight Eclipse palette. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have anything that you'd like to say about the new formula, about Twilight, about some of the more recent ColourPop palettes, anything, please do comment down in the description or down in the comments below because I would love to talk to you guys about it. Have you had experiences with this new shimmer formula that you didn't love? Let's talk. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.